Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, eh, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening to our global audience joining us across radio, television, and social media platforms. Tonight, August 7, we confront three national issues that sit at the very center of Liberia's democratic maturity, social stability, and development future. First, the Yhap-Fahnbulleh debate, a clash of ideas that has captured national attention and exposed deeper questions about Liberia's ideological direction. Second, the drug crisis, a growing emergency affecting our youth, our communities, and our national capacity to respond. And third, the education reform agenda, including the Ministry of Education's announcement that beginning 2026-2027 academic year, all public schools from kindergarten through grade 6 will be completely free, and President Joseph Boakai's directive to accelerate the renovation and modernization of the University of Liberia, expressing concern over the slow pace of implementation despite significant government investment. These three issues are not isolated. They form a single national story. What kind of Liberia are we building, and who's responsible for shaping it? That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. Joining me, I have our new progressive commentator and author, Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I want to say hi to Jimmy and hi to our listening and viewing audience out there. I'm looking forward to a beautiful show tonight, Dennis. God bless my mama Liberia.
Thank you, and that's why we are here. Let me also welcome our diplomatic analyst, the engineer, Jimmy Pearson, Jimmy Eastman. Jimmy, welcome to the show. And Jimmy, let me tell you that a lot of people, when they ask me, they say, is Jimmy still there?
Yes.
That tells me that they like you, and they're going to miss you when you are not here.
Well, that's comforting to know. Good evening to all, Dr. Pearson and Mr. Jai. It's always a privilege to be here. Looking forward to a good discussion. I love the topics, and I hope we can make a good contribution for our people.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. If you have not already done so, please share the show, invite someone, and let's discuss. During the week, a lot of things are being said, right? So the Yhap-Fahnbulleh exchange, their exchanges have become more than a disagreement between two public intellectuals. They represent competing visions of Liberia's political identity, generational leadership versus legacy activism, nationalism versus reformism, and the role of public thinkers in shaping civic consciousness. That's what I think. So just let's bring our viewers up to speed. Let's first, and people have taken sides. So uh, without delving into the details, who's wrong, who's right, and what is, just bring us up to speed on what you know about the Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh and Ian Yap debate. Uh, Mr. Pearson, let me start with you.
Thank you, Dennis. I must admit, initially, I wasn't very interested in the exchange, but then I did get some heads up that there was this back and forth, and so I just needed to go and just snoop in there and see what it was all about. What I found out when I went to look in there was that Yhap-Fahnbulleh, our famous musical icon, Yhap-Fahnbulleh, just in case some not know who Yhap-Fahnbulleh is, she was the lady who was in charge of Joseph Boyka's inauguration. So just leave it at that, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And she's the same lady who.
Is that how you describe Yhap-Fahnbulleh?
Yeah, I've heard. I already said she's one of our musical icons, folk music icons. So at least I started off with that. And she's on record for also saying some demeaning things about former President George Weah. And in the same breath, she spoke some very demeaning things about Charles Taylor. And I think there where Yap came in and mentioned that majority of the things she said about Taylor and how the NPFL conflict devastated Liberia. And I think Yap was trying to say that Taylor is not solely responsible for the devastation of Liberia as we see it today. And his view was that there was precursor. There were precursors to the Taylor movement, and he considered that to be the progressive movement that opened the doors to militancy, opened the doors to riot and some agitation in society, and it resulted to Taylor having a much more advantageous room to bring war to Liberia when the time was ripe. And then Mr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh being a militant from SOUP, from the Vanguard Student Unification Party, kind of a mindset, came up high, and it was high on Yap. And he brought in some family history, some interpersonal, some personal accounts of his interaction with Yap in the past, and then it all started going downhill into some issues that had to do with family and Congo and native stuff like that, Tui Party and progressive. So those. But I think I would say I know we'll have more conversation on this. So I just want to stick to the opinion that you asked for. That's what I know so far. You're muted,
Jimmy, your opinion, what do you know about your Yhap-Fahnbulleh Yap debate? And that's true, Dr. Pearson. We call Ente Miata, made some comments, and Yap is basically saying, how about your brother? This is what he did, this is what he did. Almost holding Yhap-Fahnbulleh responsible for the war, and not necessarily excusing Charles Taylor, but saying these people bear, responsibility too, if not more. And Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh didn't like that, and Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh didn't even shy away with his militancy and the role he has played, but try to say, hey, these things didn't cause the war. And as Clarence said, Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh will throw some punches first, and he said, first of all, he said, one Ian Yap has, if this guy is so unknown. Jimmy, what's your summary?
I think the whole exchange was very educational, and it was civil. I noticed that a lot of the younger folks, there were remarks made how this exchange was void of any insults or expletives, which demonstrated how we communicated with each other before a certain era. Um, they missed Ian's reaction was to, as Dr. Pearson correctly said, she blamed Charles Taylor for a lot of the destruction of Liberia. But we all know that history isn't linear. It's not one thing. It's a series of things that
Jimmy,
go.
before we get into it, I just want you to give our people a summary of what you what the exchange is about, so people will come up to
Yeah,
speed.
it was back and forth. That after Miata made her comment about Taylor, Ian said, "Well, what about your brother? Your brother was just as involved." And he made some mention of the history of the progressives, and then Mr. Fumbler, Dr. Fumbler came back and expressed his his sentiments about Ian, but then it delved into a more personal issue, and that revealed a lot, that our political dynamics has a lot more to do with just rhetoric. It also has to do with family connections and social associations and a whole lot of other stuff. And you said we'll discuss it later, so I won't go into details. So basically, that's what I got. And lastly, you didn't mention it, but there was a write-up by Henry Mamalou who really captured some of those elements that this exchange displayed, and I think that was equally as important. So that's how I'll begin with that.
Elvis, first question. First of all, let me give you the same opportunity to just give us a summary and really how you feel about this or these exchanges.
All right, thank you, Mr. John. Sorry I'm late. I took a little nap. I didn't know what was coming on today, and I woke up and saw the show was already on, so I gotta had to hurry up and come on. But I'm not really familiar with Ian Yap, right? It was just by chance that I went on Facebook and I saw that whole thing and I read it before you even talked about having a show on it. It was just almost by coincidence. But I hadn't thought about Dr. Famble in that way in a long time, even though I knew that he did start a quote unquote revolution from Freetown that failed. And I always looked at him as an intellectual. I love his intellectualism. Even sent a video about his daughter in the UK, Yhap-Fahnbulleh, named after her auntie, who's one of the big, power player behind the new prime minister in the UK. So I was kind of blindly unconscious of everything that was happening. I didn't know everything was unfolding on Facebook. But what I got from it was the tribalism in it. And it came from the side of Dr. Famula in a way because he was saying that Ian Yap essentially was mad at him because they removed the Congo hegemony. After Samuel Doe overthrew the government, and of course Dr. Famula was in that government, he was, pointing that he's still angry because he comes from that lineage, allegedly. And I don't know Ian Yap, maybe it's before my time, but I think that the Famula, when I look at his legacy, I do think he had a horrible part to play in the war because one of the things that I, heard about, I may be wrong, you guys can correct me. He was the one that kind of lured Thomas Puyampa back to West Africa to go and stage that coup. Allegedly that he lured him back from the U.S., went in alongside with Joe Wiley and those guys, and those other guys to do the 1985 coup that failed. And even though Doe was still a tyrant at that time before the coup, but it already exacerbated the tension between the people from Nimba and the Doe government, and the killing became horrendous. The revenge became even worse, and I think that necessitated a war coming because it was a point of no return, and that action was probably precipitated. Although Doe was a tyrant, but I think Dr. Famula really had a hard a part to play. He had connects in Ghana, of course. He had connection in Freetown in Sierra Leone, and he formulated that coup and used his weight to encourage Thomas Puyampa to come back and remove Doe. And the coup wasn't well executed, and it failed horribly. And the fallback, or the retaliation from that coup was even more terrible than what happened prior. So I do think he has a big blame. Again, I hadn't really thought about it deeply, maybe because of my own bias, towards him, in favor of him. But he did play a major part and a very negative part. And the irony is that Yhap-Fahnbulleh was talking about President Taylor in a negative light, but she failed to mention her brother. And not many people in the UK, because I've had conversations about people from the UK who mentioned Yhap-Fahnbulleh, that she's from Sierra Leone, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I put one or two together. I'm like, okay, that's Henry Bourne Fahnbulleh's daughter, and perhaps he probably even met her mom in Freetown while he was playing that cool and trying to stage a revolution while he was there. So now his daughter has become more prominent,
The
and he
father was
himself
ambassador there, so they lived there and went to school.
lived there. Okay, so he himself has had, in my mind, this intellectual giant of our country. But overall, I do think when you look at his history as a revolutionary, he is somebody who caused a lot of damage, especially what led up to the war. So he's to blame. I think Ian Yap was right in his submission, and bringing his tribal lineage there was wrong by Dr. Family. He could have done it better. But thank you.
Thank you. My first question: what does the Yhap-Fahnbulleh debate reveal about Liberia's political maturity? Is this ideological engagement strengthening civic education, or is it deepening polarization? Jimmy.
Okay, ideologically, there was a time that this socialism was being very popular. For everybody, it was touted amongst the progressive socialism and communism as well. There's a lot of the doctrine that was preached during those days. Now, the idea I get from it is that as much as it was preached, I don't know how much of it would have been espoused in Liberia, but it is very popular to use this mechanism to stage an uprising in the country. I was witness to this in Ethiopia when it was very similar. The students were rebelling. There was a drought in the country. People were starving, and they felt the royal family and the elites were taking advantage of it. So they used the same this camaraderie that is used around the world is very successful in overthrowing governments. And these governments eventually topple. They fall into socialism. Now, at the time,
is that what you are gleaning from the exchange?
From the exchange itself, it got down to personal issues. I like to give an overview because there's no ideology. It really came down to family. It came down to that family level. Who's Talbot relative? They completely left the topic of that was being discussed and went down to who's related to who and who as.
But it still addresses that central theme, right? That who is responsible, because is kind of saying, hey, don't blame Taylor. Is it like don't blame Taylor or don't blame Taylor alone? Is it that, hey, Fahnbulleh, you are even more responsible than Taylor? Or what is it that they're trying to get at? Or what is the ideology there as to where we find ourselves today?
Yes, it was.
Who or what is responsible? Did they address that?
They were looping in Taylor, Fahnbulleh to the mess that happened. But Fahnbulleh tried to absolve himself of all those atrocities, saying that he did not give the command. However, he did prepare the stage for it, so he is culpable as well, and a lot of other players are culpable. But then I keep having to go there that history, the way things were going on in Liberia, will lead up to this. I think we could have.
But is Fahnbulleh more culpable than Taylor?
More culpable? No, I don't. I think the jury's out on that because.
And what is Yhap saying? Is Yhap holding Fahnbulleh more responsible than Taylor, or equally responsible?
I think Yhap is saying that Taylor is just as responsible, and should not and been hiding in the shadows, so to speak, and they're just as responsible for the war that happened. yeah, he's holding him 100% responsible. He's surprised that Miata would leave her brother out and only talk about Taylor's involvement. Well, that sounded hypocritical to him, and so that's why he brought that to light.
Thank you. And Dr. Pearson, let me walk you through, because this argument in Liberia has continued over the years, right? So political agitation, like under President Tolbert, most of the time you hear that the progressives are blamed in a way that they're saying, hey, you started it, but to be opposition like we see today, was it wrong to oppose President Tolbert, to have opposition to one power while he was in office? Then we go to the Doe era. Was it wrong to oppose Doe politically, not guns now, to agitate and say you are wrong, you are a tyrant, you are this? Then we move to Ellen and Weah and now Boakai. All throughout, if we draw a line, what is wrong with political agitation? Minus war.
Maybe you need to help me understand when you say man's war. What do you mean when you say man's war? Are you saying war is
we are not fighting, we are not making coup.
In political change?
No, I mean, if you are not advocating for coup, for war, for overthrowing, if it is just like what we have today, people are opposed to Boakai, they want him leave. He's not doing the right thing. People did that under Tolbert, people did that under Doe, people did that under Ellen, and today. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so let me put it this way. I think sometimes, and not just sometimes, but a lot of the times, the vocabulary we use and the phrases and that we use in describing our political situation in history makes us to get defensive when we shouldn't actually be defensive. So let me give you what I mean by that. The Liberian Civil War, if we were to look at what we are today, you cannot just blame one era and one factor and say this is the factor that led to the war. Because there will always be what we refer to as antecedents, right? Yeah. So there are multiple factors of things that just build up over time, and then they result to a certain end result, right? So I will put it this way: the very founding, right, of Liberia, and the disproportionate distribution of wealth and political power over 100 years was a build up to our civil war. We just didn't have the war at the time we thought we would have had it. And then with the progressive, the power and the Moja build up, again, it's as a result of the political dominance of the American Liberians and how they did not want to have an inclusive form of governance. They wanted to tie it up to themselves in the two-way party alone. So once you get that, of course, you have in a developing society, and people start to get educated and they begin to learn that they too have capacity to lead. They would challenge the status quo. So the progressive and how they went about challenging the status quo resulted to the toppling of the Tolbert administration. We all know that. So Tolbert died, Samuel Doe took over, and we saw the brutality of Doe himself. Even in a form of revolution to redeem, he became himself a suppressor of the people, to the extent that we saw a vast majority of a certain tribal group, certain clan in our society start to feel the pinch of his action. So now, not only do we have the American Liberians that were disposed in the 80s, now we have the Nimbayans, the crew, not crew, but the Gio and the Mano also running across the border for their own safety, right? When you balance all of those things out, you see the build up to the civil crisis. Even when the civil crisis was ended and they said those who were ostracized came back and said, now we got power and we can make a difference, Taylor came with their own form of suppression that brought the Mandingo and the others from Guinea in, right? And then they came to him and moved him. Now we see uh, uh, again, we're going downhill for some reason. So I'm just saying is that, in my opinion, my vocabulary, Dennis, I would not say that our revolution for change, for multi-party democracy was wrong. No, to me, it was not wrong. Something necessitated the degree to which it reached. The civil crisis as well. Was the civil war wrong because it came? I don't think the civil war was wrong because it came, but the crimes committed during the civil crisis becomes the factor that makes it to seem to be wrong, right? And we all know there's no good war. There will always be loss of lives and destruction of property. But again, let us look keenly to what we have achieved, as opposed to who did what and who did wrong, and then try to divide the country on the basis of the role individual persons play. I do not see our history like that for some time now. I've been doing some studies.
Indeed, history is never linear, and you cannot read history backward. And the reason I ask the question is, it appears to me that we are still stuck in this blame. You are the one. And when Yhap-Fahnbulleh said what she said, I was one of those who agreed with her, because our politics are being, blamed. This one caused it, and then when you catch that one, you say, oh, but that this other one made me do it, and then we keep going back. Again, I'm on record for saying the people that were killed in Hackle for ritualistic killing, I thought they were, that was not justice, because somebody killed someone. Someone will admit, I killed this person, but it's this person who sent me. And then we say we want to hold that person and leave the person who pulled the trigger and say, you go free, you are still witness. So I see that we are in this game of always pointing backwards. Oh, I brought the war because Doe did this. Doe say, oh, I killed Tubman because the progressive did this. Progressive say, we did this because Tubman, and we keep going back. Others, I want to speak to that. We keep pointing backwards.
Right.
And sometimes as we point backward, we are absorbing the mean person who pulled the trigger from any responsibility, even though we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right. Look, I as a crime person, I always say, though it's not a hero of mine.
You look brittle.
Yeah, my father mother was Gribble, so I got Gribble in me a little bit.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
But I would defend him here a little bit against Dr. Pearson, and here's what I would say. When Thomas Weissing and Nelson Toll were killed for alleged, conspiracy with the Libyans, going communism and wanted to remove those. Thomas Quanqua's name was also in that whole thing. You guys probably, you remember this more than I do. And he killed one of his kinsmen. Nelson Toll is a crime man from Totan in Grand Jida. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Jackie from Sana, I think Thomas Weston was a Sapo man, or maybe it was true, but I think
Sapo.
he was a Sapo man. So he killed two people that are closely related to him ethnically. So when people think that he was purely against the Gios because it was a tribal thing, he was a tyrant. He wanted power, and anybody who he saw was a threat to his power, he killed them. Now, when he tried to punish Thomas Quinqua, as you all know, he tried to demote him from the military position that he had to a civilian one. And of course, Quinqua refused that demotion. Could have been executed. But I think with a lot of consideration based on where he came from and his closeness to Samuel Doe, he spared his life and really tried to demote him from the military to a civilian position. And he refused it. He went against the president and he fled into Nima for refuge. And they followed him. And the atrocity that happened there was one of the first things that really exacerbated the situation. But to say that Samuel Doe only targeted, other ethnic groups, he targeted his own people. The Joe Wiley family and myself are very close. They're like my second family. In Joe Wiley's family today, after the coup that failed, he has cousins and brothers that still carry wounds. He has a cousin that was shot. He has a sister-in-law who a lot of her kids were killed in China when they went there for reprisal. These are people that I know personally. It was all done by Samuel Doe. So traditionally, I don't want to go into too deep of a history, Mr. Jamin know this. But the Sapo people and the Crown people were not supposed to see each other, blood. The fact that Samuel Doe went and killed, Sapo people in Santa County because of Joe Wiley's action, that was something that we had to deal with, as a group. We made
The Sapo are saying till today, Joe has not apologized, and so that's still
right.
tension.
So it's a deep thing, and I just want to just not saying he didn't do terrible things to the people in Nima, but he was a terrible person as a tyrant, and he killed his own people and people close to him. So that's the one thing. But to look at that, the formulist action, like I said, my mind has been close to it, maybe because of my own personal bias towards him. But he is a catalyst. He really is a catalyst because I personally would never have thought that he had a revolutionary, fire in his belly. The fact that he went to the Freetown and really mustered up the courage and did everything he needed to do to put a revolution together and convince certain actors to go in there and come and do a coup against Do was really, I hate to use the word ballsy. So this is a man who wanted power by all means, and of course, perhaps reflecting on what happened to his father, how his father was humiliated under Tubman, as ambassador from Liberia, what it did to him, that kangaroo trial to try to do to him. And he comes from a wide range of ancestry. His mother, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is like Gribble Congo, from Maryland. And his father, I think, is from Kidmount, if I'm not mistaken. So this guy is a man who is well connected on both ends of our country, and of course have proximity to the power structure at the time, with his father serving as a ambassador in the family lineage that he comes from. But the fact that he went to to Freetown to make a revolution against Doe that was bloody, wasn't as bloody as others subsequent action that happened, but certainly people died. And the retaliation was very 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 bad, and he was never touched. He stayed out of the country the entire war. He was in the UK. And he went to live in other places in Africa. But he probably didn't feel the war as many other people like Dr. Pearson, yourself, myself, and others, feel the wrath of the war. So I think now that looking back on him, I do think he had a big part to play in it. And I think the fact that he's trying to say Mr. Yap is only saying it because it's some relative to the Tolberts, you know, is a lazy way out. You play a big part. And many people know that he had some strong connections with the Marxists in Ghana that really helped him to stage that revolution. It all came out during the TRC, and Charles Taylor himself I have, given hints to those things. So he was really before Charles Taylor. He was a Charles Taylor before Charles Taylor. Had they succeeded in that '85, coup, perhaps he would have been either president or vice president at a high position because he was one of the masterminds behind that first, that attempted coup.
And just to add to what you're saying, even when the war came, so these guys, he admitted that when Charles Taylor was in prison in Ghana, he negotiated for his freedom.
Hmm.
So he's part of that. And even when the rebels came, because they all came and they all had a training. I believe he too had training. I have some personal friends who were also trained and were going because he or family, according to those friends, he had his own group that were trained. According to him, his philosophy was let's have political education, right? Let's educate the people that we are taking. So most of the people that he recruited included university students and graduates. For Charles Taylor, he didn't want that because the more you educate the people that played that for you, you don't you want you in other words you want I don't want to say stupid people, but you want people that you can control, not people that are so there was it. But when the rebels entered, they told us and they started preparing for Famula already because they knew that he was coming. And so that class started from there. So in other words, he was part of the organizing or the execution of the rebel war, except that his fashion was different.
Okay.
He was coming to with his group, but
Yeah.
it's like they split at the very beginning, even before entering, because they were ideologically different. So if you
Yeah.
read the TRC report, the TRC one reason why TRC did not take root is saying, hey, because those guys like the TRC chair were progressive, so you didn't include your colleagues who too were responsible. And it went on and on and on and on, and this where we are today.
So just
So
lastly, 10 seconds. I would put a lot of blame on Dr. Family, and this is coming from a completely new perspective because I'm a big fan of the progressive. I thought what they did at that time was the necessary because coming from the 70s, some people think the 70s is so far away, but there was a lot of things happening on our continent. A lot of people were getting independence. A lot of things was happening, and those young men wanted to be more engaged in the government. They wanted more a political latitude to be part of their country. So I will never tell you that what they did was bad. Like you can use the example of Libya. Gaddafi was a tyrant. Many people think he's a hero, but he was a terrible person in Libya. He put a lot of people in the jail. There's a famous jail there in Libya. A lot of people got missing, disappeared, and killed. You telling me that the Arab Spring shouldn't have happened with Gaddafi because look what happened, what's going on now with the civil war that they have in their country. Sometimes the condition is necessitate change. And sometimes you can't foretell the future, but to say that, well, you don't want to rock the boat. Like what's going on right now? We don't want to rock the boat too much because if something happens again, it could be worse than what we have now. I don't put the blame on the progressive. The likes of Kuya and uh, uh, some other revolutionaries who wanted to do it the right way and were protesting peacefully and disseminating information to the people. It's not their fault. The actors, the military actors, those are the people who brought death and destruction to the country, not the ideological fighters.
Thank you. Jimmy, how far can we look backward and don't hold people responsible? Because it keep going back, right? This person did it, this person made me do it, and this person made. Where do we draw the line to start holding people accountable and responsible for where we are?
That's a pretty good question. As history will dictate, as things evolve, different things take place, different circumstances. If I were to say, I believe when Liberia wanted change, I think Tubman and the Truitt Party were some of the causes because we didn't have democracy anymore. You see, Liberia had to evolve so it would include everybody in the voting process, and that was one of the key factors. It was still in the Constitution up until recently that if you didn't have property, you couldn't vote. That had to change. It took them slow to change. There were people who were advocating this change, and that is what I want to state here. There were people who were advocating this change, but there were many people who wanted to keep that status quo. And if you go against them, you might have felt the brunt of it. Nobody wanted Liberia to be one party state, but some people did, and some people asked the question: were we prepared for multi-partyism? Because that's what we have today. Are we prepared? Are the people prepared? So there should have been some preparation, preparing the people for nationhood, preparing the people to be one, inclusiveness. And I think we're slow to do it. That is what I believe. We're too slow to do it. It should have been done faster. I'm not going to, I can forgive the beginning because you had to find a way to survive. But later on, as people started paying taxes and all of that, we had to include them and we had to educate them, expose them. And so the progressives would tell you that their revolution was hijacked. That shouldn't be surprising because you're advocating socialism, and America was bitterly against socialism. It was a Cold War, so that shouldn't be surprising. But I would emphatically say what I see as a result, we never had a true revolution. Things are just the same as the world before, as the young brother here indicated. It's just different people, different actors, but the fundamental changes that need to have the respect for everybody, the inclusiveness in everybody, the lack of partiality to groups or to tribe, all that still exists. And that is the fundamental thing we wanted to achieve, that people are respected on the same level, no matter where they came from in the country. So,
Dr. Pearson, does the debate help ordinary Liberians to understand national policy, or does it distract from real governance issues? I see a lot of people kind of grading, oh, this person, right? I even saw one example that said, Yhap for president. Right.
He's very articulate. You really impressed me with his writing. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that time book was strong. It's not these children. Yeah. So does this debate help ordinary Liberians understand national policy, or does it distract from real governance issue?
As a researcher and a scholar, I would say no, because first of all, what I see, the exchange I see between them, is not one that is authenticated in terms of the accuracy of what they're trying to get across. How do you evaluate whether their exchange in anger or in resentment is not an inflicted opinion of one side to the other? So I mean, that's not a valid place to look for information, for knowledge, right? Just going back to the question you asked, why we keep looking behind, I think we've not really looked at our past with the effort to resolve it. Resolve it, not like to say make it right, but look back in the past, see where we came from, read our history right, and then take responsibility for errors that we went wrong. Like I said, um, in politics and in governance, then there are some administration will have to be brought down by war. You like it or not, they got to be put down by force. Because they're not going to leave at all. If you get some poor chance, they will be there until the 99, going to 100, and they will be thinking about putting their son there after the leaving to protect themselves from the suppression and the depression that they've caused others, the harm they've caused others. They're not going anywhere. So I would not say I'm against any revolution. Hardcore revolutionary response to a tyrant, to a dictator who is dragging the country down and causing harm to the country. So if I had to do it again, we'll have to do it again. But should we go about doing it in a way that we violate all international laws and commit all the war crimes and whatever? No, right? So that for me, that's my. I think we need to sit down as a nation. We need to look back and read our history, right? I know that Yhap-Fahnbulleh has 2 books I've seen. If anybody know of others, you can let me know. I think one is about protest, and he just and I think it runs between 1971 through up to 19. The 2 books up to 2001. He captured speeches and letters and different writings of progressives and other national leaders in the revolutionary period. Well, now that is education. That is educational. That is informative. I mean, that's primary information. If I saw the handwriting of Bacchus Matthew, if I saw the handwriting of maybe even Charles Taylor, if I saw speeches of whoever in that era, then it's first-hand information. I can work with that. But now when you throw in jobs at each other, somebody wants to get at someone else's feeling. I have a problem with that. Last but not the least, I will say this, Dennis. I would encourage. I know Yap, on the other hand, since I talk about family, Fahnbulleh's books are on Amazon. You can look it up. Just type his name, they will come up. I know Yap is into music. I've seen a couple of his music. He loves music, and maybe he tells his own story in music. I don't know, but I think if these people have information, Dennis, let them do the country a favor. Let them pin their information. All right.
Bingo.
And then we can take it from there, and we can critique it, and then we can take it from there. Let them pen the information in books.
And I like what you said there, right? That's why I put, if you go and focus on Liberia on the opinions, I did a very good, what I think, a very good analysis of the Yap, because Yap on one hand is not giving us anything that can actually tie Fahnbulleh with what he's accusing you of. It's all proximity, because you were here and this happened, so that you. Fahnbulleh, on the other hand, is usually arrogant. In fact, he started by saying he's respond to one AN Yap, because in Liberia we want to reduce people by saying they are unknown. There are attempts to have to interview Fahnbulleh, but he said like he's angry. And I get this. I was born and raised in a progressive era, so from second grade I started following. But what I'm saying with the progressive is, hey, we have done X, Y, Z, and before I did this, let me honor the entrance of our progressive brother J. Victor Nawe. Mr. Nawe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you guys. I missed most of what you said, so I will try to get caught up.
Yeah, so let me repeat it. So the
Yeah.
progressive has a way to say, we did all this for you. So we deserve this, and you are not giving it to us. So we are so angry that after all we've done, you left us and chose Taylor. Even when we tried, you left us and chose Ellen. Now you chose we are. What's about us? So you are so ungrateful, you are so bad. Look at me. I supposed to, you didn't take me. And so the progressive, so as much as we try to say, hey, everything we learned was from you, they're not having it because they're angry. J. Victor.
Yes.
So okay, let me conclude by saying that's what I put in there. Here is my take. If you went on my blog, I used to be very much. So I wrote about this November 12th, 1985 coup, and this was written 2013. And you will see. This is what I said. November 12, 1985 invasion. November 12, 1985 invasion was meaningless and ill-advised. It shouldn't be celebrated or remembered as it made Liberia worse. It set the stage for the 30-year bloodbath that will sink the country. It made President Doe angrier, vindictive, and suspicious of meaning. It really didn't change anything but damage our chances for a vibrant democracy. The planners went to work not even waiting for the 1985 election results. They have resolved beforehand that they would not accept the outcome no matter what. So when the members of the would-be war gang won their seats, they refused to serve. Instead, they assembled weapons of mass devastation to push their agenda. The result was death and a wounded president on the lookout for subsequent attacks. He will run even if no one pursued, and strike even if a laser shakes or a dog barks. He will cook things up and fire blindly to deter would-be invaders and coup plotters. No more coup, they announced and laughed with high shoulders, feeling almighty. It worked for a while, painstakingly cracking down on anything real or perceived. But when you bend to look in someone's bunker, somebody is also taking a peek into yours. A jailbreaker and others who fled or were chased out before step up their game. Kill or be killed, they agreed, and resolved not to leave a stone unturned. They executed their plans, and there lies Liberia at the bottom of a deep hole. That was my piece at that time. Victor, you like it. But so, Victor, let me give you the chance. We were talking about the family Yhap exchange.
Yeah. One of the things, if you remember, when I started appearing here, one of the things that I said was I wanted an opportunity to help tell our story. I believe that some of the anger that we may have, which you're rightly reporting, because yes, there's a feeling of lack of appreciation for what the progressive did that most of today's government actors are benefiting from. And I think that's because there is not much appreciation of how and why we did what we did, our older brothers and all of that. So I believe that we were allowing other people to tell our story. And I think what is happening between Yhap and Fahnbulleh, my first reaction was on this very platform last Sunday. And I thought I was upset because I thought Yhap was misrepresenting the fact. But then I had to go back and fill in some of the gaps. Then I began to understand. And I think you're right. I think Dr. Fahnbulleh really needs to take the emotions out of this, backpedal, and explain what he had to do, what the group he represents had to do, because Mr. Yhap is really, really explaining his understanding of the dialectics that led to the coup and beyond. So I think Dr. Fahnbulleh needs to do a better job of explaining that. Now, as to your assertion that 1985, but look, Charles Taylor left Liberia in 1983. He was already fomenting a coup. Charles Taylor was angry and he was already leaving Liberia. And I think that is where I initially had a problem with Mr. Yap, because I think the chronology of his narration was, for me, I think there were gaps. I was of the impression that because he argued that Charles Taylor walked through the path that was made by a family and the like. And my understanding was that Charles Taylor cut his own path, although family admitted that when he was at a ministry, he had to be a part of the what is perceived today as the BlackBerry and all of that, but that was after the 1989 invasion. But I have a lot of reflection on this, and if you haven't, I think you should read Henry Mawolo. I'm not sure if you talked about
Mamalu, Henry Mamalu.
Mamalu, yes. I think he makes a lot of sense. I disagree with some of his connections, but I think the thesis is dead on. I think there's a lot of anger on both sides. I mean, we've acknowledged this, but I think we haven't taken the time to address the meat of the problem. So so you are so your article, although I haven't read it, I have to read it, but I think I'm not sure if I agree with you that the anger that resulted from NIMBA, the collision between NIMBA and Grange started in 1985. Because though, Taylor, who was a GSA director, and Charles, Doe had to move to Ministry of Commerce, as you know, switched with Mamalu. I think that Taylor had already, that stage had already been set. But to pass it on, because Deacon is calling me, and he's keep, I gotta pick him up.
Deacon want to come and tell Deacon to come.
So, but I think the problem is telling the story in a way that it is not offensive, because quite rightfully, they're very angry people on both sides. Yeah. The Congo people are angry because they were dispossessed by the progressives, who started the fight, but then whose fight was hijacked by the natives. And look where we are today. You cannot say with a straight face that we're better off than we were in 1989 before the coup came in. I can't argue that. Yes, times have changed and all of that, but notwithstanding, I think those of us who have been given the opportunity representing the natives,
right.
I think we have.
After Deacon, please invite him on.
Yes, sorry, let me take this call. I will come back to you.
All right. All right, and that's where the problem is. I don't think Liberians have really. I don't think we want to end this war. Everybody got their heels, in. Oh, you cause it, and until we come to really reflect and accept responsibility in whatever way, we're not going to go anywhere, because it's always the blame. This person did it, that person did it. People are angry. People, and that's why I started with the question. People are so angry that anybody had to oppose President Tabo. Every politician wants power. So what's wrong with coming and say, hey, you are not running the country? Sometimes they blame the progressive. They say, hey, you had a coup, you had a demonstration. You're supposed to teach the people prepare. How many people want to do a demonstration and want to waste time to teach them what to do? You want power. And as we see today, how many people will be demonstrating against President Bouaka and say, let's first have a symposium at the SKD to teach them? Nobody does that. But I want us to just wrap this up so we can go to our next topic. We're taking much time. 1 minute each. Let's go around the room.
Let me go first. Look, you see, I think, like I said earlier, there is no way that we can imagine to ourselves that the transition we've gone through, that it was not worth the while. I think it was worth the while. Have we utilized the change we've received to the best outcome that we want? No, but the change was worth the while. And I'll close by saying this to what Namu was saying, to the progressives. And that's why I'm telling them they should write their stories, because the fact of the matter is that my own research I'm doing for a book that I'm doing about the progressive period and the gap in between the progressive and the current generation, there's about 25 years gap there, Dennis. That 25 years gap we're talking about, the voting population in 2005, if you take them from the 1980 to 2005, if they were babies in the 1980 and they were going to the poll in 2005 to vote, the first real vote after the war, they were about 25 years old. Majority of the young people have forgotten who they call progressive. They had no idea what progressive meant, right? And one of the things I'm looking at in my research is that the progressive that we have in Liberia, yes, some of the what they were doing, the activities was progressive, but there was no strong ideology that they passed down to, from the strong ideological concept that they passed down as to what change they really wanted, besides multipartism. Everybody want multi-party country, but what did you really want to do with it? What is it you want to do with multi-party? Even now, as we speak, we have the multi-party system. We still don't know what to do with it. Everybody just want power. Is that what we want a multi-party system for? That everybody can go for election to be president? Or do we want multi-party system so that we can bring diverse ideology to the table that best suits us to take us to the next generation, to the next level? So I think they should pause. Nobody not appreciating it. They just don't know you. You need to write your story. You need a teacher in school. You know, communicator in grade school, elementary school, high school, teacher in college, in different levels of university education, maybe in public administration, in political science. Teach it and don't let other people, the number says, don't let other people tell your story. You tell your story by writing. So Yhap-Fahnbulleh, besides the speeches and the protest notes and things that you put down in letters and things, you put, write the history.
You are spot on.
We don't know you. I don't know all the progressive. I would say I don't know much about them besides what they will be spewing out in the event, and that's not right for them.
And Taylor propaganda really work against them.
Right.
I've been trying to get. I think we did a little bit to get those guys that were put in jail, Bella Yala, to explain their story, and it's like pulling off all four of my wisdom teeth. They don't want to tell their story. Jimmy, your conclusion on this?
I would just, a durable way forward requires a political culture in which citizenship is stronger than tribe, country, class, family connection, and historical category. This is what is amongst, if you look under this thing, there's a class struggle, tribalism struggle, and all that. So what we need to do now, let's build that citizenship that will exclude those things as much as we are human, and we incline to preferences and stuff like that. So what we got to do, we got to build a nation building, inclusive nation building. We got to build strong institutions that be stronger than personalities. And we need a national education project. Just what you guys mentioning. We need a national education project to enlighten people of that. Things went on, but today we are one people. We need to fuse into one people. It's going to be challenging, but it has to be deliberate. And until we want to, because this is what I noticed, some people don't want to let go of this elitism. You can hear it in their writing. They have that little elitist idea. We can't afford it. We can't afford that no more. So let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of all that thing that's keeping us apart and look at Liberia. That's what my conclusion is.
And it's politicians that really and that's what I like what Elvis said in the beginning, right? That Doe was even killing his own people, right? Mm-hmm. We had a war. It was supposed to redeem people from Niba County. But what will you say about Jackson Doe, DeBone, Emma Glee Johnson,
Sam
Doki, and the rest of the people, right? So politicians will always use this thing to just for power, but it's not actually for the people.
Yeah.
Elvis and then Victor will go on this last one.
Right. Look, Mr. John, for me personally, and still today, the progressives are a hero for me. One of the things I hate in my personal life, one of the things that get me riled up is injustice. You know, I hate when people are being wrongfully treated. It just boils my blood. And some people think it's about tribe or ethnicity, but I think what was going on with certain people not having the political latitude and the enfranchisement to really have the free agency, you know, to participate in the political structure of their governments, the political governance of the country was it was a terrible thing. So, like Mr. Eastman said earlier, anybody who went against that true weak party hegemony was looked at as a person who was a threat to them, and sometimes it went after you full force. So these young men, relatively young men, who took upon themselves and came together as a group, some different ideological differences between them, they forged a movement that was felt all throughout the country, and they did it in such an organized way, some more than others, but they made themselves be known in the country, and it became a force to be reckoned with. That by itself should be commended by young people like myself and others. And I think had the political hegemony at the time realized that well, the times are changing. People say you got to read the tea leaves, right? You got to read the winds of the time, and say, well, these guys, if we have an election, they're probably going to win. That's the legitimate outcome of it, of it. They come from a stock that is the majority. People are going to probably vote on tribal sentiments. They're going to win. But we have the political backbones of this country, like what you see with the whites in South Africa. If I tell you that the whites, the lives of the white people in South Africa today is worse than it was before, that's a lie. They're living a better life, and they don't have the political power, So I think they had to let go of that political power and kept their economic and social, grip that they had in the country. And I think we would have been in a better place. The one thing I would say is that election, I think was Horton, and that was supposed to run
Sawyer.
against
Sawyer
Sawyer, right? Yeah. Why did they cancel the election? I think that was the biggest misstep because
voting, they didn't. People couldn't vote if you didn't have property.
right.
They had to change that.
Yeah, they should have changed that. So it's like you look at some of the mistakes and it seems so trivial now, but those were key points in the move towards what happened. And like you said, Mr. Ja, a lot of these guys were beaten when they were in post stockade, and those who were in the Bella Yella, they were whipped on a regular basis just because they dared to formulate a political or a movement, and conscientize their people to be more politically engaged. Most of them didn't shoot anybody. Most of them didn't. None of them robbed into the stores and went into the stores, but they were beaten and held, as a threat to others who were trying to rise up against that political system. So these people were heroes in my book. Some of them now they became, will last for 10 seconds. Some of them became, worse than what we thought about them. But in that moment, they were heroes for people like myself and others. So thanks to the progressive.
And the reason why some people taking the hero business from them is when they have the opportunity. Think about
They
how
never
many
had a clear opportunity. They were only the whipping boys for Samuel Doe.
Hold on. When they had the opportunity under President Salif, right? When they had the opportunity, they could, at the minimum, build their own party. But they also, first of all, when they were joining the Unity Party from their progressive base, they said, at this time, we prefer Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to Weir. And even while they were in power enjoying, they could still be part of their political party and build it, but nobody was home. If you went to a meeting and they look around, if you went to an LPP meeting during the time Ellen was in power, they look around, if they tap, they don't see Sawyer, they don't see Tipote coming up with them, they will walk out. And that's why so if you were really committed to this thing, why you didn't build it, even though you don't have power, but you have ministry. Brighten your little corner. But I don't think the progressive did much. And maybe Victor can attest to this. Mr. Nabe, I want you to conclude on this.
Well, look, what I'll tell you is this. I think one of the most vexing things about one of the issues that I think is most vexing to the community, the progressive community is, one, people blaming us for shaking the tree, so to speak. But they don't agree that we did not pick the fruit that fell from the tree, and we're not responsible for who was to take care of the fruit and it got rotten. They're not saying that. And that is the problem. Because the fact of the matter is, the military government hijacked what we were trying to do, so we never really had an
You're not telling
opportunity.
your story. That's your problem.
That's right. That's right. And I've said that you are absolutely right. But it is also true that yes, like you're saying, we haven't been able to adapt. You know, look, Ellen Johnson surely worked for Talbot. Yhap-Fahnbulleh worked for Ellen Johnson. Prominent Wizard, Medina Wizard, they're best buddies to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You get my point. Alari talked about Kofi Wood, all of them supported Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So somehow we are going along, but we ideologically, we haven't been able to make that switch.
And that's the criticism against you. They say because you don't have it. You didn't have it. You were
you didn't have what?
The ideology, right?
If you remove Toba and the hegemony they were fighting against, well, what is left?
So if you need to go back and read some of the proposals that the guys made during the PRC time, go and read Thibault Test, go and read Matthews, go and read Yhap-Fahnbulleh. You understand? Abolition of hot tax and all of this kind of thing. Those were the things that were being proposed. We never had that opportunity to follow through on these. We were working on somebody's clock. We weren't on our own time. And we have said this over and over. By 1981, 82, most of the guys had left the government of President Doe because, there was a clash of ideas. But having said all of that, I think the progressive community, we need to get off as the whole of Liberia is blaming Uncle Sam for everything that is wrong with Liberia. We ourselves, we need to recalibrate. Like you're saying here, we need to find a way to tell our story and begin to own some of our mistakes and see how we can. Those of us who are still around, like the Konkala who just called me, Blamo Nelson in Monrovia, Tobana Tipote, the Yhap-Fahnbulleh. I think this is a golden opportunity for Dr. Fahnbulleh to actually tell our story. And this is why I am a little bit worried the way he's going. He may end up losing us more credibility than, we've already lost. So I think it is essential.
You use 5 seconds.
It's essential to tell our story and explain what we did and why we did.
I want to challenge you. It's not only that. If we look around President Bouaka today, we see 2 strong progressive, Anthony Kesseley and Kofi Woos. I'm not saying go against the president or do anything, but it's Kesseley who is the public affair, who offers the press secretary work on it. Has Kesseley come up to say anything about anything? Even if you will promote the government, we don't hear him. Kofi Wu is the national security advisor. Has he articulated anything besides he called a conference so that they can present their national security plan? So even if you are not, nobody's calling you to go against the president, but articulate something, stand out, because there are a lot of people aspiring to be you. Any word that comes out of the mouth of Mr. Kesseley is an insult. So it's like, anyway, let's move on to our next topic.
Yeah, let's move on. But I agree with you, but again, the progressive community is not a monolith, right? Yes, we are a governing ideology, but I can say today that we're still going by some of these, and only because we haven't had a chance to practice some of them. I think some of them we may have concluded that they are impossible to go through. So, Anthony, I have expressed here over and again
of governance, good governance. Alari Tupa, what do you hear?
Correct, but you have to also understand the environment. I'm not making excuses for Alari, and I understand, but Alari is Alari almost got replaced, if you know that, and so I don't know to what extent jobs are being protected, but I have also expressed my frustration here because of what you're saying, that I know guys who understand the struggle and they're in this government and we're not hearing anything from them.
Thank you. Liberia's drug crisis is no longer a warning. It is a national emergency. We have only 9 psychiatrists, 7 a population of over 5 million. Youth involvement in drug is rising. Communities are overwhelmed. And the legislature is reviewing proposals, including the call for centralized statutory drug institution to coordinate prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation. At the same time, the University of Liberia is expanding psychology programs to address mental health and substance abuse. but modernization delay threaten national readiness. The drugs, right? The arrest and everything else that is going. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. Today, we are saying that people that are charged with the responsibility of protecting us and safeguarding the country against drugs, I mean, if those people are implicated, that's a scary thing. And I made a post today. I say, if President Boakai can just get a handle on this drug business, put people in jail in handcuffs and prosecute them, no matter who, all the big people that are connected. If President Boakai can just do that, even if he does nothing else, I will be for him. That's how kind I'm so. I can't believe that someone like in the police or the NSA or the DEA, people that's supposed to do it, and you just sell the country for a few dollars. I don't know where to start. Maybe
Yeah, let me start.
yeah, start.
Okay. Whether we want to accept that Liberia runs on compromise principles and issues and orders, the whole country is rife with a lot of compromise. So we shouldn't be surprised that we see compromise in the police. We know that people take bribes. We see it every morning when you drive into work in school. They're pulling you, they're pulling you over. What they want? They want a little something for the day. This is going on. So now the thing about it now, it's gone to the drug trafficking, which is not typically characteristic of our people. But given the ability, vulnerability of the country right now is there. So I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that the people were taking bribes. They take bribes everywhere else. The courts, you just name the area, and that's what's going on. So maybe this is the beginning where we will start to straighten out our institutions and root out those culprits who are continually bending the rules and violating the code of ethics. If this could be a beginning, I hope it is. I hope it doesn't just stop with drugs. I hope it goes to the courts. I hope it goes everywhere. It permeates all facets of Liberia community, so we can start straightening out our things. Let's try to emulate somewhere like Singapore, who had a whole campaign against corruption. That's the only way we're going to stop what's going on. So this is a good thing, but I hope it proliferates into all spheres of Liberian society.
Elvis, I interviewed the former deputy DEA boss, Hassan Fariga, and the whole thing about what was going on, they were accusing the director general of being in cahoot with drug dealers. He said that was all the fight was about. He didn't come out boldly to call names, but he said, hey, this had nothing to do with gross insubordination. And so the president set up a committee to investigate. When he submitted their findings, he fired them, right? But regrettably, we didn't know what the findings said. We don't know what was happening. But what Fadiga and other people pointed out that there were some higher ups who were, they say you will go and arrest drug, and then AB will say, hey.
Sorry, Dennis, I have a meeting I gotta run.
Okay.
So, all right, see you guys next week.
Let Deacon come and explain. All right. So this is where we are, and exactly what happened that time, that there are big people involved. That's what we are saying today. Yeah. What did President Boakai know at that time? I did a piece on that, and could that have helped us prevent where we are today?
Perhaps, but my take on it is what Mr. Eastman said. I would just kind of buttress and add to what he said. I think it's about the people. We as Liberians, we are susceptible to corruption. And most of us don't even see it as corruption. We're corruptible people. If I go to get a passport in Liberia, I have to slip the guy $5 to make sure that he processes me fast, or he pays attention to me. People go to the bank to pick up money. to make sure the teller, get your money and they don't slow roll you. You got to make sure you're getting $5 from your money. Some people call it tipping, but really it's a barbarous system that we have in Liberia, you know, and as such, our people will rationalize corruption and think, well, it's just the cost of doing business because people in integrity institutions, security institutions, for the most part, integrity institution. A guy would say, well, it's not, at least we rationalize it. It's not going to be sold in Liberia. We just let him pass it to Europe, let the European, let it deal with it. Or you're going to America, let the Americans deal with it. Get my 5,000, get my 10,000, I'm okay. But one of the things the United States government have that maybe we can replicate in Liberia is the IGs, right? The inspector generals for these different agencies. They have to watch you. They have to make sure that your associations are not questionables, are questionable. They have to make sure that people in these high integrity institutions are really, showing integrity. And you have to have a watchdog watching them. You can't just have them in an institution and nobody is monitoring. And trust me, a lot of these FBI agents, people that are working in the LDA in the United States, they too are being watched. Believe it or not. How do you think they catch them? They don't just let them to their own devices to make decisions and collaborate with drug dealers. They are being watched. So it's a form of big government, but to really make sure that Liberians are not going to be easily seduced by drug money, you got to make sure you're keeping tabs on them. And that's why I call for a purge, because certain things has to be, clear before you can even join the LDA or the NSA. Your past associations, if you have some sketchy people there who are on some of these lists, that should be, in my mind, maybe it's harsh, but automatic denial to join that agency. Why are you associating with quote unquote BMs? Why are you associating with people who are known to be drug dealers in the past? How can you explain that association? Do we do these kind of thorough investigation before we hire people to go fight drug on the street? Many people say this about Abu Kurma, and again, people that's close to him that are friends of yours, but when we say it on the platform, we seem to be spewing, rumors. But he's somebody that has been tied to a lot of, corrupt, drug-related people in Liberia, and the president put him in such a sensitive position. Anytime a person is asking for a position in government, you got to put one or two together that they feel like that's the place they can easily get rich easy because they have connections in that area or they have interest in that area. So if a person want to be LDA bust, they know that they hold a key to a drug dealer either getting busted or them paying him some kind of royalties or payment every month so that they don't get touched. That's the worst side of it. But for me, I would say this: congrats to President Boyka in a way that they've had a lot of arrests. They've got the intelligence to arrest a lot of these people. But I want to see a systematic purge of LDA agents, NSA agents, anyone who is associated with drug dealers or have some close ties with people who are associated with them. They either need to be reevaluated or taken off the force. And then, like Mr. Eastman said, we have to teach our kids that corruption is not acceptable. And people thinking that begging for $5 to do their job, to pay attention to you, is corruption, in its purest form. If you're trying to entice me to do something for you that I should already be doing for you because it's part of my job description, you're being corrupt. So many Liberians don't see themselves to be corrupt. The only thing the government official are the ones corrupt. But the society from the base level to the highest echelon of power, we're all corrupt. And that's a problem. I'll leave it at Mr. John.
Dr. Pearson, it is not uncommon for DEA or people in the security sector to be compromised, even here in the United States. In fact, there's somebody who said the USA is a narco state. What is different about Liberia?
I think what is different from Liberia, we like to compare Liberia to America, but Liberia is vulnerable because it's a high poverty level country, right? And for me, that stands out. Like a lot of the drugs that are coming through West Africa is because of some of the strong measures that other countries are taking in Latin America, different old routes that they used to use. So now they're looking for easier routes. So Liberia, one of those countries like Sierra Leone and Liberia, we're more vulnerable because our society is backwards. Trust me, if you show a Liberian man $50 every single time as opposed to showing a drug a drug that is passing through his backyard, he will take the $50 because that $50 is why he's depending on to cook, or maybe pay his children's school fee or pay his rent. Those simple things like that. And I tell people, we cannot solve the drug problem in Liberia if we cannot improve the basic necessity of life in Liberia, where the poor people can eat, sleep, have better health care and education. You must, we have this saying that crime is being incentivized because the people are so poor. So let me explain what I mean. The man who tells you, say, I got $10 for you to do me that passport quick, it's easier to get that passport done because you will not pay that guy for 2 months before the $10 reaches his hands. Right? The man waiting for $100 salary, 2 months pending. And then somebody said, print the passport for me, I gave you $20. The man gonna take the $20. Let's leave that. Look at our young people. We deprive them quality education, and even if they graduate in hundreds, there's no opportunity for them to go to. Any other little thing that will distract them, easily will distract them. So I think we need to improve. Look, the money is there, Mr. Eastman. The money is in Liberia. The President Buhari can get into power today, and automatically his house is made one of the first class homes in rehab, and now he's building a multi-million-dollar complex in the same location, and he ran $1.2 million vehicle immediately in less than 1 year, and everything around has changed dramatically. What is it? Why is it, I should say, that the ordinary people are still living the way they're living? Another thing I would say when it comes to the corruption issue, Dennis, let me say this to all of us in this room. I'm highly suspect of the president's campaign funding. I'm highly suspect of the president's campaign funding. You know, when the kind of vulnerability of the cartel comes in like this, they must have infused cash into President Buhari's campaign through individuals who bought places in government, who bought positions. When people were making allegations that government officials were selling positions in the cabinet, other people were defending it because they felt, oh, it's a new government, let us defend. I gave them chance. There were people, even John Malu came out on in public space. He said, we had a plan initially that the president would not recruit without a vetting committee. But once the president won the election, all of that was thrown into the bush. And to make matters worse, people, even down to the president's son, was being accused of giving people jobs while taking money from them. No one can give you a campaign funding of almost $500,000, $600,000, Dennis, and then you win the campaign and get a job, and somebody who was right in PA, Philadelphia, doing continual work, becomes a director for a major income generating entity, a gateway to the country. And you think the man got $500,000 from a 401k? I've been working in the country for more than going almost 20 years now. I'm a 401k, it's a read $500,000. My 401k, I mean, it's not even read that much money. Even if you want to take it from the bank on credit, that President Baka said he left on loan. Is that the reason why he gave the RB Bank $6 million after he became president from a central bank to bail him out? I think President Baka may not be totally responsible for the campaign funding that led him to win the elections, but he may not have put his foot down to want to know where the money was coming from because he didn't have it to begin with. And there were people who wanted to use his popularity to get to power, and they will spend any amount of money. Those people have gotten their days in government. They have had 2 years running. President Baka, if your officials listening to me, go after the campaign funding. Look into those people who gave you big money. Where did they take the money from? I just heard, Dennis, that we signed a security pact with the U.S. government. From the Coast Guard standpoint, I think they just signed it a week or two ago. The news are not here in Liberia yet. I just got it today. Now, that security pact that they rushed into the sign because of this drug issue has other issues in it that we do not even have full control over. I'm not seeing the full document, but that someone telling me say that pact that we signed, the Liberian government signed, that security pact that had to do with how we manage our maritime, is going to be a major issue for us to start looking into by the time that document hit us, or we can call enough noise for that document to come up, or maybe they'll call it classified information and we never see it.
Thank you.
If they have that connection, like the foreign minister said, she just pick up the phone and call US, and in 48 hours, agents were in Liberia. Let them look into those campaign fundings, especially the guys that came from the United States of America and went back home, and Europe and went back home, and they are in top position in the government. Let President Burka disclose what their contribution was to his campaign, and let them follow the money and see where the money came from.
But the asset declaration was supposed to address some of that, right? But
no, campaign finance law should be enforced in Liberia. The way in America, dark money in politics is one of the biggest indicator of corruption. Future corruption, like what Dr. Pearson is saying.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Friday Night Debate. We are talking about the Yhap-Fahnbulleh debate, also the drugs, and then our last topic will be the free K-6 education and LU modernization. So, we're going to take a short break because our health practitioners, especially our health contributor, warn us that we should take time to stretch a little bit before you get blood clot. So don't sit too long. So we're going to be taking a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our last topic for the night. Liberia, our country, Liberia. Let's welcome Joseph Tao from the oil-rich Texas. So, welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Hi, gentlemen.
Right.
How you doing?
And if you please call, we almost before we even go to our last topic, just a short comment on what I see for which money or even drug money. I think we have prioritized. We don't have policy. We don't really have a way of governing. We just prioritize development stuff. We want the president or whoever is in power, you build this, you build that, you build it. Even without any plan, we don't care where the money comes from. You build it, you're good to go for the next election. And then we go around. These are the things we prioritize. Nobody will ever talk about policy. Nobody will talk about something that has been instituted to say this is what was, the economic policy, this is what we're doing now. I mean, all these years, we have not even been able to turn our susu into something that we can modernize. It being still susu. You put in $5, you get back $5. By the time you even get back the $5, the value has reduced because $5 you contribute to susu this month. By the end of the month, before you get it back, it's now $3 or $4. But everything in Liberia is development, no matter what. Just wait, build something, and the people will vote for you. So we don't care. And that brings us to the Ministry of Education announced that beginning next school year, K-6 education, public school will be free. Mr. Tower, is there big news, good news, bad news? And how can that be sustained? I know you were surprised and you were saying, "Oh, I thought we had this before." I don't know if you thought about that,
No,
but let me get your take on the on this one.
yeah, it depends on how you look at it, though. They're going to have a K through 6 to be free, or to say maybe financed by the state or somehow. But what type of education? What is the quality of it? What classrooms are the kids going to be sitting in? What type of books? What materials are they going to be exposed to? So remember, you just made the point here that we don't have any kind of policy. So they just announced. So that's where, so they can even say school is free in Liberia. Our problem in Liberia, both at home and abroad, is not people, is not education really. It is the type of education. Because the type of education, the culture around it, and the way in which it is shaped and directed by the state is going to determine the type of people that will produce. Education is not merely just about going to school and learning 1, 2, 3, and then graduating and going to get a job. Education is about nation building. It's about the survival for people. So if like the education for the Chinese can be the same as the one for Liberia, because we have two different problems that we need to solve. The one for the Americans can be the same for the one for Liberia. We both have two different challenges that we need to solve. So what challenges are we trying to solve in Liberia that our educational system of model, or at least the materials of instruction, should be kind of built around? So that are they going to say school is free? Remember the school, those little school that I showed from your hometown and from Boston and other places, is that where the education is going to be free? So yeah, it's that kind of area. So for me, I don't really know what to really think about it, because the fundamental issues are not even this, they're not even addressed. There is no policy in place to structure things first, and then to then something that go ahead, you know.
I don't know how I should be saying this, that in school in my hometown, the population has dropped from 300 to under 20. So
Wow.
because the people are in the bushes mining, the ones, the younger one, like 12-year-old, 9-year-old, who can really mine, their work is to carry loads for people going in the bush to mine or do stuff, forestry and stuff like that. So if the education in my hometown, even if it's zero, we have people there.
Yeah, and then it's real quick before you move on. There is a reason why it dropped, and even in Monrovia, it's dropping. Then there are a lot of people graduating. Look, let me tell you something. Our young people, forget about all of this that I see of the kids that are on the street. Our young people, I'm interacting with a lot of them. They are really driven. They are really smart. Look, I work with some of them. Then I show them one thing. They pick it up just that quick. And 6 months later, when you come back for you to tie that in, they be like, "Oh, but Uncle Joe, I already," and I'm like, "Wait, hold on." They say, "Yeah, remember you showed me that and this." And they are really good. But guess what? They don't have a job. They have nowhere where they can plug in. So they pay all this tuition. They did. I was talking to one of the guys. He's here now. He's my friend who grew up. He's a director of a program that have a nursing program. As Liberia sit, you would think that nursing with a medical EQ is a place that should be very attractive. I have 4 people, both from Moderator to all of the different areas that we sponsor. They can't even get a job. Nowhere for them to plug in. We even went as far as getting them to take the state board so that they can be licensed, and they can't get a job. So what is really going to encourage the kid that they should go to school? When they graduate, there is no, after they graduate, one of them came to me.
Move on, please.
But uncle, I know that he did everything and everything. But uncle, can you? Yeah. Hello?
Thank you, Joe.
Hello?
I want you to come in, Dr. Pearson, on this one too.
Yeah, no, let
On
me
your case. Go ahead, Joe. What are you saying? I lost you there.
Tao.
Yeah, okay, I'm back. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear
Dr.
me?
Pearson, K through 6 now is free, you know.
Yes, we can hear you, Joe.
Okay. Yeah, I said, so one of them came to me and said, "But Uncle, I know you did all of this stuff, but can you just open up, let me sell cement?" So you see, I could have just opened a place for them to sell cement. But now you see, we went through all this stuff for 4 years. Then they found out that selling cement is where they can probably make a living. So what is going to really encourage the other young people?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the problem.
And what I learned, especially this week, is the school, especially post-secondary school. I think some of them, not all of them, but the few that I've interacted with, is just deceiving the kids. I mean, I helped someone in school who completed an 8-month program. By the time I know they're graduating, and this is things like procurement, shipment, logistics, money, and it's just furious. There's nothing, you know. But anyway, Dr. Pearson, I want to get your take on the K to 6. Dr. Jasu Jala, you know, announced that K through 6 is now free.
That one thing about Joseph Boakai's, President Boakai's administration that makes me laugh, the repetition of something that already existing, and then you call it into being, almost like the appointment. They appoint the man today, and then tomorrow they appoint it again. And then the following day, they appoint somebody in the same role. You declare drug national emergency. After some time, when you spin, come back and you declare emergency again. Dennis, Liberia does have free primary education across all public schools since 2001. So what you telling? This is not news.
They were paying fees. They were not paying tuition, but they were paying registration fees.
Dennis,
waiving all these fees.
Dennis, go look up the Education Act of Liberia. I think 2001, and I think the other dates on repeat. I think 2011. I'm not sure, but just look here. We have it in law. Free primary education. Free means free, Dennis. It doesn't say free. Then it says you gotta pay registration. You gotta pay for. It's supposed to be free. You see what the minister saying it today. It's not news. I think this is where the problem in Liberia is. Like somebody can normally say, we're not short of laws. We're not short of regulations. But the work to implement it, the work to effect it is our problem. The president, I will repeat myself, the president going to power, he said he doesn't care about vehicle if they need a wheelbarrow. In less than 1 month after he said the wheelbarrow, they got the boy in 2 Lexus 800 series. Bulletproof custom made. When you already have 2 bulletproof Toyota clean that he's still using today. When you see him using it in Liberia today, you look at it, it's clean 2 pieces Toyota. He turned around and bought $1.2 million clean Lexus. Then he tells us that y'all accelerate the renovation of LU. Did you tell us to say y'all found money to go buy me a new car? Oh, we just saw the car on the ground. Why do we do this to Liberia? It's supposed to be free. So it doesn't make any sense to me that somebody trying to make news of something that already shouldn't be on news. It should be happening. LU should be top-notch university in West Africa. We shouldn't even be using the building we're using right now. That whole structure on Capitol Hill should maybe be the law school. Because the law school now getting popular. Too many cases now from politicians going in the course. So we need that whole area should be law school. Maybe the one in Fender called Agriculture College. We should be building a modern education system. When it comes to education in Liberia, we're talking about registration fee free. Man, don't put joking, man. Don't put joking. What I keep telling you, Dennis, we need to find a 44 continuum, put all of those guys in it, ship them down to Colombia, let them go there and go sit in there, and we start our country all over. No, that for me that put all the top class, all the top political class, collect all them put in 44 continent. That people we know that so they can suffocate, carry them to the Caribbean, leading them on the beach. They don't go spend their $1 million they got there now, and let us take that country. Our children, our children. It hurts. Do you know we graduate more than 500 to 600 up to 1,000 kids every year from universities?
Yep.
Every year from universities, those kids are graduating. Some of them don't even know how to press button on a computer, how to write a fitting document on a laptop, because the better can handle a laptop. You know, they don't talk about free registration fees yet. It's hurtful, man. It's hurtful, Dennis. It's very hurtful. I don't even want to talk about that. Let me leave it there. Don't call me on the topic again, Dennis. Don't call me there until the people get ready. Yeah, don't call me on the topic again, Dennis.
And Jimmy, that takes us to the University of Liberia. President Bouaka is concerned that the renovation is not fast enough, and this is at a time that the students were even calling for Dr. Mapanyan to step down. What is President Bouaka saying? Is he thinking that Dr. Mapanyan is not doing well?
Wow, you know, when it comes to that university, my alma mater, it's also a political thing, because university students are known to be agitators. They're the first ones to get in the street and start demonstrating them. So you got to try to find a way to appease them. Of course, the university needs millions of dollars. But here is my argument, Dennis. I look at everything as a business, in a business model. What does Liberia need to put to? We need to put people to work. That was our aim. Because once they put to work, they can add to the economy, they can add to their families, they can help progress Liberia. So we need to put people to work. What is the best mechanism, tool, institution to get more people ably employed at work? And so I will tell you, I look at vocational training as very essential. And I don't think we need to design a system that makes the university not the only respectable destination. You know, I see a lot of people getting degrees, and this is what has happened. Like everything else, the object is to get a paper in your hand, not the knowledge that you're supposed to possess after you leave. So a lot of people get paper, but they leave without the knowledge. And that is why what Dr. Pearson was saying here, a lot of people cannot defend their degrees. So what do? No, it's not wasted. There's a way to do this. Okay? And it will start with the Ministry of Education needs to come up with a transformational program for the entire education of Liberia. She may not have to do it. I met her during the diaspora program year, very astute, but we need to come up with a blueprint for generations to follow. It can be adopted, adjusted as time goes on, but we need a blueprint. So we need to have a program for those who already finished school, but who have these gaps in writing skills, computer skills, like Dr. Pearson was mentioning. We need a program that will fill those gaps for them. We need programs that will address direct commercial needs in the country, welders, carpenters, and stuff like that. Give them those skills, and as well as some formal education so they can read and write with proficiency. But this traditional way, just go and you get a degree and you can't find a job, this isn't helping. I think we have to tailor our educational system to meet our needs, and it has to start from the top.
What do you say about President Bouaka's concern? Is it?
Is well, what is his priority? Because it doesn't appear that the university is a priority. It's been like that for years, and since he's been there 3 years. And if he's claiming the renovation is not going fast enough, I wouldn't come in the public and say that. I would summon the person I put in charge of those repairs, the renovation, and ask them why is it going so slow. And they have to give you a timeline. You know, when you give somebody a project, you tell them how long this project is going to take. You ask them to provide, and then they're supposed to meet the guidelines of what they said. And if there's a problem, they have to say what the problem is. So if he has concerns, then he has to take it up with the person who he put in charge. You know, and if it can't be done, if you didn't deliver on the funds, then you shouldn't be in. I mean, they have to appropriate enough money to LU. It's been that way, but do you need all of it one time? What are the most important things you need to focus on? Sometimes you have to be strategic. If you don't have the money, you find a way to be strategic. Should we start with classrooms? Should we start with the building structure where they will not be rained on? Or should we start with teacher salaries so we can get quality teachers? What is the best strategic way to approach it? And we got smart people over there. So I have to ask the question, is it a priority? If it is, then we should be doing much better with it. And and for the country, to me, I think the vocational education should be the priority above all. Above all. In fact, everybody needs it, including
And quickly on the K to 6 free education, no fees, nothing, and the university renovation, the one President Bwaka is complaining about. Our friend Sam Wallow said President Bwaka convenes committee to ensure acceleration of university renovations. That's from executive mansion release. It reminds me of because our flies supposed to be making bees. Honey. Flies supposed to be making honey, right? And when God was giving the recipe to fly, bees just eavesdrop. So fly went home and fly was convening all these committees. Some days he will do the timeline. Another day he want to calculate to make projections, how they're going to trade their surpluses. While they were doing that, B went to work. The rest is history. What's your take?
Look, let me say this, right? Universities are not purely ran by the income that's generated from, tuition. Most universities have endowments. They have a substantial amount of money that's allocated to them by the government. And of course, the alumni contributions, philanthropic contributions to the universities.
Yeah.
I don't know if University of Liberia is making a reach to somebody like Mr. Eastman. You know,
Elvis, please, go ahead. Let me connect our line. We have callers already. So go ahead. Let me connect the lines.
right. So I don't know if they're making that connection to their alumni to make sure that they can have people contribute, like Mr. Jimmy Eastman and many others who may have the means to contribute a few $100s or a few $1,000s a year. And then of course, reaching out to corporations within the country to donate and and to help with the furtherance of the education of Liberian people. And of course, the government has to have a staunch, reoccurring, contribution to the University of Liberia. It is our premier, tertiary educational institution. We must make sure that we fund it to the highest level. So the university is lacking because they're not fully utilizing, the different means of gathering, revenue. And one of the ways, like I said, is to get donation from corporations in Liberia. Tel should be at least donating $1 million a year to the university. Other corporations, associate and alumni associations should be contributing, and of course the government should have a nice chunk of money that it gives to the university on a regular basis. But it seems like for some reason the university finding hard pressed to find money. So I don't know if they're utilizing those other avenues apart from just the tuition. But the K to 6 free education or no fees, it's fine. It's good. But again, it's about sustaining it, right? If you're putting money in the budget continuously, to sustain it is fine. But again, in America here, everybody will, this is what all I know for the most part. Most people pay for their education. You think it's free, but it's not. The taxes that you pay in your district, it has a direct correlation to the quality of education your kids are going to, get when they go to that school that's in your district. So more wealthy districts have better schools. Not always, but usually they do. So there's somebody living in District 10. Are they paying taxes or putting money together to make sure that the public school in that district is well funded, is well ran, the teachers and the student and the parents of the students are engaged to see how the school is being run, the quality of the education, all those things. Our parents do it here in the United States. They go to your school, they go and check it out, they go and talk to your teachers to make sure that the tax money is going to, to support the school system. So Liberian people, when you say taxes, they run away. Nothing is truly free. The free school you have here, the income tax you make every year, they take money from it, it's going towards your school district. The value you pay on goods and services in your neighborhood, it helps to go towards your school district. So why can't Liberia take that sacrifice and say, well, let's bring a tax regime that's going to tax people a specific amount, and that money is going to go into an escrow account that on a yearly basis is going to be reinfused back into the district to make sure that we bolster the educational system and make sure we bolster the schools in that district. You can do something like that. Use new ideas. Can't keep going back by the same thing we've been doing since the 1940s. Use new ways to fund education on a local level by imposing taxes. People may not like it, but making sure that the money will be there every year for the students to have a good education, the following year. But that's my take on it, Mr. Jai. You can go to the lines.
You are muted. You are muted, Mr. John.
Thank you. So, Ellis, basically, you're saying the issue here is no money. We have
Money,
good
yeah.
manager, we have good structure.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that it all starts with money. Money makes everything possible. If you have to beg for money every year to run your institution, come on, it's not.
Thank you. Let me bring in our callers. We have one caller so far. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Escalating. I'm calling from the state of Pennsylvania.
Go ahead, Mr. Gomez.
Yes, I have quite a few comments to make. Firstly, Dennis, my first comment is directed at you. I'm not impressed with your HD and Iron Yard debate. I mean, you have two old men who benefited from the TWP and, going at each other with different versions of history. I don't think it should occupy international discourse. The formulas of the world, they always play victim. But when I check the background of the formula, they never had to go far like my father, nor lower farm. They didn't struggle like me. I believe a formula had been born in the place of P, and his father was an ambassador, and he had to go to school under the Palava Hall, walk 3 hours after fourth grade to complete sixth grade in another village, go to 5 different public schools in Limba. I suspect he probably would not have finished high school, but he got what he did because his father was in the system. The system paid for that education, So even bring all these stuff I'm unimpressed by the selection of that topic. But of course, as usual, you are formed of breaking this old age, progressive did this, which sometimes doesn't make sense to me at all. But I think Dr. Pearson also spoke, excellent on the primary, free primary education stuff. When I listened to that woman, I was not shocked really, but it's just because Liberians and Liberian media do not pay attention to the past. A lot of the things that when new government comes to power, they try to say like it's a new idea from the different ministries. Usually they are not ready. You check most of the time, 90% of the time, the ministries have done that before, and they're just going by and they're making like in the public sector, there's just
you stay there until
lack of innovation in public service in Nigeria. And this is one classic display of this woman who I understand in this country. Also, Liberia, not even reading the history of the Ministry of Education passed there is what the person was talking about is called the Primary Education Act. That started even in 2007 under Dr. Joseph Koto. If you look even on October, we're supposed to spend 25% of the national budget of education is in the education law or act on October. That 25% of the national budget should be spent on education. But no government since Togo, or probably including Togo himself, has ever done that. Okay? So that education act was revised. The revision started under Dr. Joseph Koto. So pre-primary education has been the law of the country. You know, to come now and make it even sense fairer, but that was just a lazy and shameless propaganda by the minister. I call it propaganda because she wants to make herself appear like she's working when she's clearly not. You know. And lastly, I just want to comment on the dual renovation. At least this is something I have personal experience with. In 2006 to 2011, I taught at a university in the Department of Mathematics throughout. And I also returned home in 2016, and I taught in Fendel, in the science building where I went to school, graduated. I taught in our building, and I was also embarrassed teaching your classroom 2016 to 2019, where the windows, the same bullet bazooka and whatever marks were on it in 1990 were still the same. You know, you stand there, like, you stand outside, you see people passing around the building. It's like, I don't know what I should say, air-free, open air classroom, you know. But all I believe previous presidents and previous government did was to just showcase, to play the war victim scenario every time they get video, yeah, you know, because of the 14 or 7 years ago, we still doing this nonsense. Lack of innovation, commitment in public service in Liberia. And that is pervasive, it's in the academic, it's everywhere. For worker to even pretend not to know that is shameful.
Thank you.
You know, yeah.
Thank you. All right, we have 3 minutes to close. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Tao.
Yeah, real quick. On what Caleb just said that Dr. Pearson said, and Jimmy also echo, and even Mr. Morris. But look at what happened here. Growing up, I was a stubborn little boy that stopped going to school. I would take my clothes, change in a uniform, go on the beach, because I'm trying to come to the free education here that's very old. So I flung out in 4th grade. So my parents yanked me and they took me out of private school because it was very expensive. So they put me in public school. It was free. I went there for 1 year, and I have uncles and nephews and nieces that all went to public school. This is during dole time, and it was free. So I don't know, just like that the person said it was free, then it turned out to be free again. It thought I was already free, so it's always been there. Yeah. Look, Mr. Morris have a very good point, right? On the type of stuff and structure that should be put in place. But where I want him to be careful, this is Liberia, it's not America. The accountability that is in place in the US and the way in which they have plans to lay it out. The problem is not money. My young brother, the problem is not money. Okay, if Aslam Meta give $1 million, somebody give 50 million right now. What is the actual plan of the Ministry of Education, or let's just tell you on how the money is supposed to be used? They have no real plan. They can't really lay out a plan. So the problem is not money. We should stop saying that they should tax the people. There should be more taxation on the public for stuff like this. So there's a lot of money. Let the government officials and the representatives, the Senate and the presidency, let them release all the money they're holding onto so that we can invest it in the public. We can't let them hold all this money Then we keep saying that every little thing that's supposed to be solved, they should still come to the same people who have nothing, the same public, the same little businesses that are trying, that they should come back and tax them. You see, we have to hold the government. Look, they have a lot of money. Why are they buying $45,000 vehicle? Why they have all the gas slip and this living expense and all this stuff? Let them relinquish that money. Just somebody was posting in the chat room, 10 grand. What were they supposed to do? They're going some kind of retreat. Somebody ran the number what almost $1 million just this week. That's a lot of money. So money is not the issue. They have no sense of direction. They have no structure in place, no planning on the overall view. What are they really trying to do? And then moreover, Dennis, USAC, man, that place was built way back in I think 50s or 40s when it was small. That is not where they're still supposed to be renovating. That is not where they're supposed to still be renovating. By this time, we should actually have a state-of-the-art stuff that can take like about 100 to 150,000 students. Well equipped, or at least start with it. But they still, you renovate that place. What's going to come out of it? School is right there on that rock.
Well, you talking about Monrovia?
Yes, the Monrovia.
No, the Fendel campus is there. They should have moved to Fendel campus. Most of the colleges.
Yeah, but you know that land. I went over there when they started building up. I went to Liberia. Most of that land is not encroached on because the land was there and they didn't even expand for them to really build the place. And as they were finishing, just like Caleb was just saying, go there now and see everything is falling apart.
And that's why every time, when people compete, those who support Adult Unity Party, CDC, they compete, they always show projects. I mean, I'm sitting here while we're talking, thinking, what if we've taken the money for the presidential villa?
Yep.
So what are the priorities? And taking that money and say, let's build a new university campus.
Yeah.
Or let at least renovate this, let's use this one on classrooms, on chairs, on leaking roofs. And then there's another one, the digital village in Foya.
Mm-hmm.
While it is true that building these things, that's a good thing, but why are we not maintaining the old ones? But maintaining buildings does not win election. For the new structure, for the 6 years, everybody likes it. But gentlemen, we have to conclude. Let me announce that tomorrow we're going to have Roundtable Africa. We're going to be discussing Afrophobic in South Africa, the emergence of hate and Black apartheid in a Black majority rule country. Mr. Mohammed Sharif will be here to dish it out. You don't want to miss it. Again, gentlemen, we discussed 3 topics. At this time, we're going to go around the room for closing. Let me go counterclockwise. Let's start with Eves, Tao, Clarence, and then Jimmy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John. Look, for me, sometimes I sit and think hard. And there's a point that Mr. Tower was on the show today. And I ask myself internally, are we as Black people an inferior race of people? Are we? Because you look at the Asians, you have great nations in Asia, highly developed, highly technical nation states. You look at the Europeans, a lot of them are well developed. The educational system is good. They have corporations that's running, people can go there and get jobs. And on the African continent, you'll be hard pressed to find a purely Black nation that is doing well. And many people say it's the white man's fault. The Europeans, they're holding us down. But I think it has to do with us. And maybe it's a cultural thing, or maybe it's a capacity thing. But for me, I think running a society, a sophisticated society, it takes deliberation, it takes intention, and it takes planning and practice over years to really perfect it. And I think one of the things we're lacking is deliberation. I haven't seen the last time when we've had a serious conference of really revitalizing our educational system, for one, where we have our best minds that deliberate, that bring forth plan and policies that we can find ways to implement, that is tailor-made for us and will help maximize, our educational system and bring more Liberians, to light through education. I don't see it. We just don't. Is this something we don't think about? Is this something that is escaping all of the best minds in our country? So for me, I'm increasingly the older I get, I'm getting more disillusioned with the country like Liberia. We fought for all the things that we have now, the multi-party democracy, the freedom to, to lead our own lives and have our own country and a sovereign nation. But are we really utilizing, all of our gifts to nation build? And I think we're not. So I can't even get too excited about the next political cycle because if Cummings get there, I think his exposure and other things will help us. But just overall, as a people, I think we don't have the sauce to really do it. And it sounds pedantic, it sounds, negative. But unless somebody can prove to me otherwise, I'll be pessimistic on if we can lift ourselves out of this by ourselves. That'll be my closing for the night.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, I share your disillusionment. Look at what happened here. You are not inferior as an African. In fact, in many instances, you are actually superior if you want to use those two terms. I don't believe anyone is inferior, superior, but if you point that out, everywhere where Africans or Black people are restricted, whenever that is lifted, the African come in or the Black person come and dominate. So the fear of the restrictions that you face, even here in the US, they know that everywhere else. So no, you are not inferior. What happened is that you lost your way. You lost your way when you were told that your way of life, that the way in which you govern yourself once, when you were the powerhouse of the world, that way is wrong, that it is primitive. You should relinquish it and they say, come and follow this way. This is where we are stuck. It is not about blaming somebody because each thing come up. It is about recognizing where we went wrong. It is our duty for us to rediscover. So this is where we are. And look, we are at a critical juncture right now. The world order that was actually ushered in with the democracy and everything else, actually at 1945, when Europe dealt with Africa and all this stuff, there was no such thing as democracy and human rights. It didn't exist because you were in chains on your own continent. It was when the U.S. put together the UN and everything else after World War II, when most of the world was destroyed and the U.S. alone was untouched. They put all the policies in place, that's the rule-based policy, the best practice and all this stuff. It is coming to an end. They themselves have been discussing it. They've been saying that we knew that it was only a tool for us to use. But now that it's not beneficial to us anymore, we are going to pull out of them. This is the opportunity that we have here. And that is what I was discussing back and forth, Mr. Dr. Pierce and other people. This is the time now, you guys who are the theoreticians and everything else, to start seeing how do we formulate, we can now hold on to the same old ideas that they themselves running away from that we are trying to use that didn't work. Yes, there is corruption. But you,
Mr. Talo, go to your own closing.
Yeah. No. So like that. So this is an opportunity. But look, in closing, everything I was saying here that we're talking about, Mr. Murray raised a good point, and it tie into it. Because until we can solve this problem, the education that we have is wrong. The education was never meant to solve our problem. That is why the more we graduate, the government encourage corruption. Where are they keeping all this money when it's still is not in Liberia? It's in the international financial system. Don't you think that they know that it's stolen? They encourage them to steal. So this is where we are. But look, I just want to say that when it comes to drug stuff, I don't know how it end, but I have been critical of the system and everything else. But I have to point something out. The Bouaga government, so far, I'm surprised, actually, to some extent, that they've done fairly well. Whatever pressure, people are getting arrested now, whether they don't arrest all the top people, I'm still waiting because the police director himself said the top people in government. I have not seen the arrest in them yet. But I hope that from where they are going, they can get there. I heard the president's own son Jojo, who I know, we grew up together, explaining at 2 a.m. he got some text and all this stuff. He reported it. If he's connected, let them get him too. So, but for now, because on the other government from Ellen to where we never saw any kind of arrest and drugstore came up on all of them. So I just hope that this is a good beginning, that even if it is not that much, but if we can start here, so that other government that will follow, whether it's Cummins, whether it's Musa Belete or whoever, so that they can also follow the same trend and let them follow it across the board so that our young people can be safe.
Thank you. And that's why I made my post today, Mr. Tao, that if President Bouakai can do something about this drug business, get a handle on it, arrest and put big people in jail if they are connected, and punish them to the full extent of the law, I will be so out on Bouakai as long as he's doing that. Even if that's the only thing that he did,
yes,
I am going to sing his praises, because I cannot fathom how that our security sector will be so compromised that people just think about the little they get. How can people all the way in my village be selling drugs and doing drugs? And it's so normal, because that's the control. So if Bouakai can just do that one, I will be in Liberia to campaign for him.
Be careful what you say.
December. I mean, how? Why do we have this? If what we saw from Martin Colley is true, I mean, somebody gave you pickup, and that's enough to sell this generation and the one unborn, just because of that. It's food that when we finish eating, we go to the back door. That you want to just destroy our country. How can a villager all the way in Rivergy leave selling pepper to sell cocaine? Because it's like a normal way of life now. Oh, I was selling this thing. Oh, this one get profit more than this one. How can you get a beautiful Liberian girl? Liberian girls are the best in the world when it comes to beauty. And you get them going to China, Thailand, selling drugs. Just like you selling Kelewele. So if President Bouakai can do just that one, he's my president. Dr. Pearson.
No, I think that's my turn. Oh yeah, Mr. Pearson, go ahead.
You see, that this is how we contribute unintentionally to why our country don't progress. You guys, some of you, not all of you, but I hear Dennis trying to praise, and Tawo did the same, praise Bouakai for something he has no credit for whatsoever, right? In terms of this drug fight. Let us not forget here, the $90 million drug that kicked off this entire situation of this drug fight was not caught by DEA, was not caught by LMP, was not caught by AFL, it was not caught by airport security. It was caught by a lady who did not expect it to be passing through the check at the time. And then she was just concerned about it. And then it reached to a point where nobody could hide it any longer. Phone calls could not hide it, and it became an issue. Let us not forget that. Because if we're not careful how we tell the story, we miswrite the history. And then it becomes a problem for us.
So just summarize what I said.
I will flow. The audience will try. and then to further worsen it, and you want to praise President Bouakai when the intelligence, the director for investigation and criminal investigation intelligence and Interpol and NSA securities agents compromised, DEA officers all compromised, LMP highway patrol commander compromised, right? Then the airport director for operation compromised, airport director for security compromised, the very GLS that's able to check goods cargo before they carry to the airport and then shipping compromised. We had a whole country totally succumb to the cartel under the watch of Joseph Bouakai's appointees. And then you telling me, yeah, you want to celebrate them because you think Joseph Boakai is working? President Boakai, no, he does not deserve that credit. And let me move further before I go to the next one so I can just look. Look, let me say this, Dennis. All of the suspects that are being dealt with now, the joint security forces are walking behind social media commentators before they can grab them.
I'm just sharing my post that I said.
Share. Until social media commentators and news media owners like the Rednessier and Stanton there can put Martin Cody there can put pressure on a name. Government seems to be in protective and defensive mode. What are we talking here? No, the government is not fighting the drug. The government is under pressure to respond to public demand for response to the drug. And I think the public deserve the commendation. The Liberian people deserve the commendation, and not the government who is fully compromised because they cannot come to agree to themselves that they are the problem. I think we need an independent investigation in this case. Now, when it comes to the issue of Yhap-Fahnbulleh and look, I don't think they should be on the air going tit for tat situation. No, I think I've been listed. You had more than a year now, Dennis, on your show, Neo Progressive. None of the progressive ever reached out to me and said, you guys may be coming after our footsteps. Since we missed the mark, we want to recruit you and indoctrinate you with our ideology of what we wanted the nation to be in terms of progressivism. Nobody ever reached out to us. And there are more young Liberians who feel they want to be progressive. And yet the so-called progressive who moaning and whining and crying every day, they want to recognize them, are not willing to have a genuine ideology to pass on to the next generation, but they're still crying for power that they have lost already. Yhap-Fahnbulleh should get off the Facebook. They should move from there, move off the Facebook. And I saw him in a video today with US students. Yeah, go to the UL, go hold workshops, hold seminars, talk about progressivism. Tell the young people what is it that they wanted to have achieved. What they didn't just want to see government removed. They wanted to see an ideology portrayed, passed on. That's what they should be portraying right now and passing on. Their time over. They should be passing on their knowledge. And last but not the least, free school or free long time. They didn't care that jobbing thing way back to somebody else. President Boakai, the time he took to be giving himself brand new bulletproof vehicle, he should have been renovating the University of Liberia. Right? He shouldn't come here and tell me, give me speech. He gave nobody speech to say, you accelerate my $1.2 million Lexus. No, he never said it. He never said, you accelerate my FOIA project. No, he never said it. He never said, you accelerate my house renovation. He never said it. He never said, you accelerate my complex I'm building in my yard. He never said it. It just went up. It just went up. Take care of our universities professors. The pension money. Pay the pension money. Pay the pension money. They work for it. Pay the pension money. You right? Put computers in the classrooms. Get rid of that open seating. You can see straight through the seating. Straight, you see the zinc. You go in the bathroom, everything broken. President Boakai can't even use that toilet. He can't have a PhD program inside. Who's going to do PhD program in a dead facility that does not represent the image of the degree you want to portray? Like they should go and find someone to hire themselves. I probably might put in a 44 container and carry it into the car. We'll use the millions there. Thank you, gentlemen, for the show.
Spoken like a true militant.
Neo progressive. Why you expect?
I'm going to post. This is one of my blogs what I was collecting. There's an article by James Flomoyan. He was responding to Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh in an article that Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh wrote. So you can click on that and read.
Oh, yeah, that would be very good.
Yeah. James Flomoyan said Dr. Yhap-Fahnbulleh attacked him, so he was responding.
Yeah. Sometimes I ask the question, do Liberians really love Liberia? And I ask that question because, I can see some lack of sincerity, but to be honest, Liberians do love Liberia. You see it in their in
I
how
want to know
pride.
what love is.
You see
What
it
is
in the
that love?
pride of taking that flag, the Independence Day, the music, the food, the resilience. You see diaspora Liberians sending money home, funding relatives' education, returning to contribute. You see this. But the real question is whether Liberians consistently place national interests above personal, family, and ethnic and political interests. That those when we put those things above national interests, is what we is why we see our country not moving the way it should. Yes, why is Elliot still the way it is, but we see money being spent on other things? It's because the national interest of the children education is not that important. You know, they announced free education to elementary school, but that has been in existence. And if you're announcing it, I would have appreciated if they tell me where the money coming from. Because anytime you're talking about making a large expenditure, like you have to show how you'll finance it. So when you tell somebody, you remember what happened with when he announced university education be free? They're struggling with it now. It's one thing to announce something, but it's more important to have a plan to reach that goal. And that's what I'm keep missing. If we're just going to do this thing ad hoc, well, let me just do my own. I'll go, and we don't have a long-term plan that where we are slowly building a strategic structure for to rebound our institutions.
Self-sustaining.
Yes, it's not going to be fruitful. And we have good minds, but what is holding us back from making long-term plans instead of these superficial, knee-jerk plans? Why? I'd rather you tell me, say, this is or give me a comprehensive plan. And I said, we don't have the money, but here's the comprehensive plan. Each successive administration can work on it. So the Ian Yap and thing, people blame a lot everybody for the Liberia's fall down into war. The blame is plenty to go around. But why can't we come together? Because there's still something between us, and Liberia will not move forward until we overcome those divisions. Those prideful, I see pride in a lot of this. Those prideful divisions that keep us from putting our heads together and coming up with comprehensive plans, that has to be conquered. There is no difference between Liberians at all. It's superficial. We have more in common than we do have different. But we have to overcome this tendency to allow our egos to determine how we behave with each other. What should determine how we behave with each other is the love and appreciation for unity and the progress of Liberia. That should be determining how we behave, not our egos. I'll leave mine there.
Amen. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Mr. Tao, I know you came late, so you didn't take part in the other one. So write your response and send them to me. I will announce them in the next show.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to thank our viewers for watching and always focus on Liberia. If you have not done so already, please visit our website, focusonliberia.com. It's the best the country have ever seen since 1822. And don't take my word for it. Check it out and sign up. We also have an app, and then you let it read. It's rich, and there's nothing like it. And by the
I
way,
don't always believe you when you say it's the best, but this one is genuinely the best. Take my word for it, guys. It's really great.
and that's it. You have never seen anyone as well-rounded in the media landscape like me. Again, you don't have to argue that. I, but gentlemen, Thank you again. At this time, we're going to conclude with a song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless.
We are